Washington, D.C., following reaction. It seems like the political lines are starting to be drawn over this Orlando shooting.
You know what? It seems that way, and I think that's something we've seen in the past. The president here at the White House, he spoke yesterday. He spoke about congressional inaction on his push for gun control legislation, something he has called one of his greatest disappointments of his presidency. The president said that this massacre, further reminds us of how easy it is for someone to get their hands on a weapon that lets them shoot up people in a school, a house of worship, or even a nightclub. And he said that we have to decide if that's the kind of country we want to be, to actively do nothing in a decision. To actively do nothing is a decision as well, is what the president said. And this morning he will receive a briefing by his national security team and the director of the FBI, James Comey, who will also hold a briefing. But his briefing, there will be some very poignant questions about how was this suspect, this Omar Mateen, how was he able to get the weapons in the past week to commit this massacre after he was flagged by the FBI over the past few years. He was interviewed 3 times by the feds. So how was he able and he was interviewed about possible terrorist connections, but he was cleared in each case, and so therefore he was able to legally buy those weapons.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think the question isn't did the FBI mess up, because I don't think that's the question, right? I think the question is even though he was checked and he was investigated, he legally bought those guns, right? It wasn't like somebody messed up and his name should have been on a list and wasn't on a list.
Here's the thing, is that I think what the FBI director will lay out today is that this man was thoroughly investigated. He was investigated, but as an American citizen, he deserves this due process. He was investigated, and he was cleared by the feds. But I think what you're going to start seeing is this congressional reaction, which was swift after this shooting. You've got Democrats and Republicans all offering condolences and prayers, but then that fundamental shift on what's next. Democrats continue to call for sensible gun control reform, pointing to the times that they've tried to act, right up until this past November when a measure in the Senate failed where it would have barred terrorists from buying guns in America. We talked about that no-fly list. President Obama, who has been frustrated over the lack of gun control reform, has said, look, we can put someone on the no-fly list, but that person can still buy weapons. And under this legislation that failed in this just a few months ago, that wouldn't have been the case.
Yeah. Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut, Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, Senator Durbin here from the Illinois area, all coming out saying that Congress is very harsh words, saying that Congress is complicit because they fail to act.
Some very harsh words, and I think we've seen when the president stood there at the podium here at the briefing room. This is the 18th time he's done it, and he's talked about that. And you heard Hillary Clinton. Obviously, this is reaching the 2016 campaign trail. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump reacting swiftly as well. Hillary Clinton's saying that it's the lawmakers who have been scared by the gun lobby and the NRA to act on any type of sensible gun control measures. The fact that any change in gun laws, period, is met by a swift and pointed, people who are from the NRA who have definitely spoken out against it. And so that's what Hillary Clinton's pointed to, but Trump has pointed to more of taking on radical Islamic terrorism, as he calls it.
Kenneth, any word? Seems like the Democrats are out in full force. It seems like, though, however, the Republicans are sort of taking a moment. I haven't seen any reaction from the Republican side of the aisle.
Yeah, the reaction we've seen from senators like Florida Senator Marco Rubio is pointing to more of the FBI. What they haven't called an FBI failure because, as you mentioned, we're not taking a look. We're taking a more look at. We need an explanation of how was he able to be on the radar of the FBI but still get these guns. So the Republicans are more focused on what happened during the background check of this thing versus what needs to happen on the gun control side of things.
Kenneth Moton, ABC News correspondent, live in the White House. Thank you, Kenneth.
Thank you.